Hey, this is Dan from MusicXplorer. We're here today with drummer Rod Morgenstein, one of the founding members of the Dixie Dregs. Rod is also involved with Winger, the Rudis Morgenstein Project, and Platypus, featuring John Myung from Dream Theater and Ty Tabor from King's X. Rod has also been awarded Modern Drummer's Best Progressive Rock Drummer 5 years in a row, from 1986 through 1990. Hey, Rod, how you doing today?
Terrific.
That's great. What made you want to start and be a drummer to begin with? How old were you?
Yeah, I was 10 years old. It was Sunday night. My parents, my sister and I sat around the TV watching the Ed Sullivan Show as he introduced, and here from London, England, the Beatles, right? I immediately identified with the drumming. And then and there, I looked at my family and said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. 3 years later, I went over to my friend's house and he said, you got to check this guy out. And it was the first Jimi Hendrix Experience record, right? So the first song, you know, dare, dare, do, 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 do. Mind blowing, right? So then Mitch Mitchell became one of my favorite drummers. And then, you know, as I got into my later teens, I started getting turned on to the world of jazz. Really in high school, maybe 12th grade, I discovered Miles Davis, kind of like the granddaddy of the fusion movement, right? And then the drummers that were playing with Miles Davis became my favorite drummers. So, you know, mainly Tony Williams and then Billy Cobham with the Mahavishnu Orchestra. That band might be the band that turned my world upside down more than any other one. Something in the Mahavishnu Orchestra's music reached a place so deep inside me that happens only on rare occasion. And that album, The Inner Mounting Flame, became my instruction into the world of odd time, music that happens in time signatures other than 4/4,
Right.
or 3/4.
And then how did you hook up with Steve Morse?
My professional career really started when I was advised that I should go to the University of Miami because it has a wonderful jazz program, and my teacher went there. So I said, okay, I'll go there. I was always a better drummer, but I always tinkered on the piano. And so I was in a jazz improvisation class on piano, and there was one guitarist among the group that didn't play a fat, hollow-bodied Gibson with all the treble off. He played a Fender Telecaster with 4 pickups with Gibson frets and a Stratocaster neck, and he had long blonde hair, and his sound was not like anybody else's. Well, that was Steve Morse. And the teacher was always getting on him because he didn't sound like a jazz guitarist. They were trying to make everybody sound like jazzers. I was admiring him throughout, you know, the first few weeks of the course. So one day, Steve came over to me and he said, hey, somebody told me you play the drums. I said, I do play the drums. Why? You have something in mind? He said, well, I have a band. I have a drummer. My drummer's a surfer. He hurt his arm surfing. Could you fill in for him? So I said, sure. So I went to the rehearsal, and here's this band playing Mahavishnu Orchestra cover songs, Allman Brother cover songs, Frank Zappa, Mothers of Invention cover songs, and Steve Morse originals that are right in that Mahavishnu Orchestra vein. I couldn't believe what I had walked into. I really thought I had died and gone to heaven. And so some weeks later, when the other drummer's arm healed up, the odd time, crazy, over the bar line, polyrhythmic type way of playing was not really his thing. And he gracefully bowed out of the band. And then here I was, you know, the official drummer.
I mean, so then you guys produced your first album in 1975, and that was with that was on. Or you guys produced that yourselves, right?
Yeah. In 1975, they completed the building of Gusman Hall, a beautiful concert hall on the campus of the University of Miami with a fully operating 24-track, you know, reel-to-reel 2-inch tape system, which at the time was state of the art. We recorded what became a demo album of 10 songs called The Great Spectacular, finished our schooling some months later. Steve Morse, Andy West, the bass player, and I knocked on doors in New York City. We just got names and addresses of record labels, and without calling or making appointments, it was just knock, 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 knock. Who are you? Hi, we're a band, you know, we're ready to get signed to a record deal. Here's our demo. Would you listen to it? So most doors were slammed in our faces after they took the record and an address where they could send the rejection letter to. But most of them kind of saying, where does a group of young musicians who don't have vocals, they call themselves a rock band, you can't tap your foot to your music. I think it made us stronger in our desire to prove to the world how wrong all of these people were. And we were going not only survive, but we were going to break through, get signed by somebody, and leave our mark. But the way we moved to the next level and got our first record deal was when we were on this circuit of playing North and South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama. We were playing a club in Nashville, Tennessee, called the Exit Inn. And during our set, we noticed a famous musician sitting at the bar. And so we had a little band meeting on stage. You see who's sitting at the bar? We got to kick it into high gear, right? So we finished the set, and this famous musician came up to us with the person who he was with. So the famous musician's name is Chuck Leavell, who at the time was the pianist with the Allman Brothers Band.
Yep.
And so he was with Twiggs Linden, who at the time was the Allman Brothers production manager. And like, they couldn't stop raving about it, saying like, who are you guys? Like, we had a night off on tour. We just thought we'd come in to a local bar in Nashville to see some country band. And we're being blown away by this jazz, rock, fusion, country, classical, like whatever you call yourselves. Where could we buy your records? And we said, we don't have a record deal. And they said, oh, you're going to get a record deal. First thing tomorrow morning, we're calling Phil Walden, who's the president of Capricorn Records. And we will make sure he sets up a date for you to play in Macon, Georgia, which is where the record label Capricorn Records lives. And sure enough, you know, a month or two later, there we were playing this club in Macon, Georgia. The Allman Brothers were not on the road, so there was Chuck. He came, sat in with us. We did
Cool.
Jessica. And at the end of the night, we met the president of the label, Phil Walden, and his vice presidents and everybody else from the label who Chuck Leavell and Twiggs Linden were raving about.
So that's a case of being at the right place at the right time.
That's how the music business works.